Hello everybody, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. I'm actually going to pull that a little bit closer. That's a little bit better. Cool. I actually had DQ for lunch just a little bit ago, and the lady there, when she gave me the food, she said, "Have the best day ever." I thought that was kind of cool. Today does feel like a really good day. Got some really good meditation in, cleanse the area. Just, cleanse the internal temple. Worked on simple things like the breath. I was actually rewatching my very first video today. Not watching it, but listening to it in my car. Excuse me. I had a little burp there. But it was nice and refreshing to go back and hear the first lesson. And I was mistaken. It actually has been over a year since I started this YouTube channel. I went back and checked, and I started it like January 5th or something like that. So it's been a year and a little over a month now since the YouTube channel has been started, and I'm so excited with the progress that's been made already. It's been really cool to have conversations in the comments and such for people who have similar questions to what I had, like a couple years back. I really wish I would have stumbled across more information, especially with the ceremonial magic, as far as I was looking for information on the lesser invoking ritual of the Pentagram, which I did eventually find through Damien Eccles' High Magic book and a couple other references. I had gone back and the Golden Dawn, the Black Brick, and I eventually realized that the only difference really was that you still, you draw the pentagrams differently, but you don't give the at least I don't give the sign of silence when I'm doing invoking. And also in the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram, let me know if you guys do the sign of silence or not. I'll have to check in Michael Donald Craig's and see if, I don't think he says to do the sign of silence when you're doing the lesser banishing ritual of the hexagram. I could be mistaken, but from the documents that I've read, they didn't say anything about the sign of silence being given. So I'll have to go back and review that a little bit. We're getting off tangent though. Just wanted to talk a minute about the progress of this YouTube channel. Some of the really cool people that I've met on this channel. Shout out to you, Mercury Moon. I think you changed your name on Facebook. I'm not sure if you're YouTube. You just started a new YouTube channel actually, and I cannot remember the name of it offhand. I just watched a couple videos this morning actually. So super proud of what you're doing. I've talked to a couple other people on here about questions they've had about ceremonial magic. One of the guys just starting his journey really, it seems like, and learning some of this stuff and starting to practice it, but has already accumulated a lot of information and seems very serious about the path. So that's actually very reassuring and positive. I'm not sure how long I'm going to go in this video today, but turn these tones up just a little bit on here. Probably won't go super long today, but I want to go ahead and jump right in. For this video, I'm going to do Morals and Dogma again. I think we're at part 6 for Morals and Dogma now. And we have finished chapter 1 finally. It took like 5 videos just to get through chapter 1. And this is chapter 2, the Fellowcraft, which is the 2nd degree of Freemasonry. If you are not familiar with Freemasonry, or if you have not watched the previous Morals and Dogma videos I've done, go back and watch that playlist first. And I also have a introductory video in my ceremonial magic playlist about Freemasonry. And I also introduced like the definition of magic in that same video. It just happened to work out that way that I was able to lump those into the same video. They kind of go hand in hand. I'm actually working on a book called Occult Perspectives on Freemasonry and Ceremonial High Magic, where I make correlations between the two, what the differences are and whatnot. And I'll have to eventually share some of that on this channel. Maybe I'll read some parts from that. But a lot of it's just bringing the information that I've presented, together on this channel with ceremonial magic and combining it with some of the understandings of Freemasonry explaining some of the ritual that's not the super esoteric stuff. I don't give out, like the Grand Lodge says we can discuss quite a bit of information about Freemasonry, but there's certain things that you obviously don't discuss. So those things will not be discussed. If you want to learn more information about Freemasonry, or if you want to read books on Freemasonry, I know there's even Grand Lodges and such that have like reference materials. I'm not sure which Grand Lodges they are, but their websites, if you go to them, there's books and references and resource materials you can use to learn about Freemasonry as well. There's a lot of good information out there, and there's a lot of kind of junk information on it. But usually, if you go to a Grand Lodge website, it's going to be good information. There should be PDFs of books and other resource materials that you can get. But anyway, jumping into Chapter 2 now, the Fellowcraft, which is the second degree, and we actually our local lodge did our inspection for the Fellowcraft, which is basically where the people from Grand Lodge come and make sure that you know your ritual work, that you are performing it, up to the standards of the Grand Lodge. So let's jump right in. The Fellowcraft, and in my book, it's on page 22. That's kind of fun and symbolic. 22 channels or paths on the Tree of Life, the Kabbalistic Tree of Life. I have written some notes, but I just want to kind of go through the page real quick and make sure. Here's what I have written in the notes. Religion and philosophy in the originally were merged into one. They were always together. They weren't like separate things. Using symbols as actual worship, people started worshiping the symbols instead of what the symbols actually mean, which degraded true worship, after a while, and their real meaning. Religion cannot satisfy the deeper longings of these core teachings. Religion only seems to get you so far, to a degree. I would say not in the way that you can learn about Christ consciousness, but if you really want to do the great work, if you want to know, the inner workings of what Jesus and those kind of people knew, the prophets, Moses, Noah, the secret teachings that progressed on through the line, you're gonna have to get into like mystery school stuff and start, practicing and studying more meditations and spiritual practices and such like that, things like that. But the love of Christ consciousness should always be like the most important thing, kind of what we're striving for. And true mastery, that will be like a byproduct of true mastery, is having that true righteous love in your heart. It's like an unconditional love, which transcends, like, if you read about, you'll read about it in like Dante's Paradiso. That's about the closest concept, other than reading like really beautiful passages from the Bible, that you're probably going to get. Free Masonic ritual has some very beautiful passages as well, which is very reminiscent of like degrees of moving through the spheres and the planes of existence, like they do in Dante, which I've talked about before, Inferno, Purgatory, and Paradiso. You're raising your vibration. You're climbing the celestial ladder, Jacob's ladder. Let's see what else we have on here. Symbols used to express many things and a powerful tool. Explained at the end of the paragraph. Is it the first paragraph? The vagueness of symbolism, capable of many interpretations, reached what the palpable and conventional creed could not. Its indefiniteness acknowledged the obtuseness of the subject. It treated that mysterious subject mystically, and it endeavored to illustrate what it could not explain, to excite an appropriate feeling. If it could not develop an adequate idea, and to make the image a mere subordinate conveyance for the conception, which itself never became obvious or familiar. So it's about digging down into the deeper meanings rather than just the concrete thing that you're looking at. Yeah, the unclearness or obtuseness creates more, as I just read, mystery or mystical aspects. Things were conveyed by symbols rather than books. Rites went with these and made them more meaningful. Masonry is the successor of the mysteries. I quoted, her symbols are the instruction. The lectures are endeavors only. And then the next page, let me read through and see if I missed anything. Philosophy and religion were together at one point. The popular theologies eventually took on the allegories and symbols for the realities, and it degenerated into a worship of the celestial luminaries and of imaginary deities with human feelings, passions, appetites, and lusts of idols, stones, animals, reptiles. This kind of reminds me of what I was just watching with Damien Eccles. Check out Damien Eccles' video on the Nephilim. That is a great video. Because we work with angels, like in the Lesser Banishing Ritual, the Pentagram, and other rituals such as that. But the angels, really what they are, is it's not these winged things in the sky, it's stars. The word angel and star is synonymous in the Bible. Makes more sense when you take into conception. Lucifer is a fallen angel, fallen star. That makes a whole lot more sense. But they're also like modes of consciousness too. The angels, like they're these almost analogous to like a computer system, but imagine it's the computer system of the Almighty. You know, you've got the two poles or the batteries, like the two pillars of existence, and you've got the tree of life, and then the angels are like these it's this consciousness that allows the energy to move through the different spheres of existence, and is basically playing out the grand plan of this supreme intelligence, you know. But the angels are just simply personifications of these functions that play out in the universe. There was something else I wanted to touch on real quick. Oh, the animals too, because it mentioned here idols of, stones, animals, reptiles. When they had the idol of the bull, the golden bull, around Moses when he came down from the mountain, they were worshiping the calf or whatever. That's just reminiscent of the age of Taurus, and the age of Taurus was over. I believe it was moving to the age of Aries. And then it went into Pisces, which is what we just ended, and now we're in the age of Aquarius. Or I believe it's already made the jump. If it's not in the age of Aquarius, it's awfully close. It's happening now. You can feel the shift in the archetypal energies. We're kind of in the process of watching we're seeing like an old world idea and conceptualization and archetype crumble away as a new world is really being unfolded and formed. The animals, though, Damien Eccles talks about when Noah builds the ark, and the ark is symbolic of these teachings being preserved. And when the animals come on board, it's the different zodiacs. So that makes more sense. Was there anything else? The religions don't appeal to the loftier aspirations of the spirit or the logic of reason. That's funny. Nice, Albert Pike. The vagueness of the symbolism, capable of many interpretations, reached what the palpable and conventional creed could not. Its indefiniteness acknowledged the obtuseness of the subject, and I already read that part. That was just the little part beforehand. What is now imparted through books and letters was old conveyed by symbols, and this goes back to also the transference, from mouth to ear, from master to student. The priests invented or perpetuated a display of rites and exhibitions which were not only more attractive to the eye than words, but often more suggestive and more pregnant with meaning to the mind. So this is even going back before words, the symbols are the real primordial thing before there was even language and stuff like that. Masonry still follows the ancient manner of teaching because it uses these old symbols in a new and adapted way. It's basically what happens through time. Like the Bible, I keep referring back to Damien Eccles, but it kind of fits, in tangent with what we're talking about. the Bible isn't simply just a rearranging of characters and a retelling of old Sumerian stories and older texts that also go back before that. It's like the next chapter in the passing down of these teachings. And that would be the same here. Freemasonry is like the new chapter. It's a more modern adaptation. It's a way we can convey these messages and these symbols and these basically these meanings in the modern world. It's a way that we've adapted, and there's so many different, as I've said before, so many different traditions and ways of kind of transferring or passing down the same sacred knowledge. You know, you can learn a lot of this stuff from watching videos, reading books, but it's not the same as actually going through the ceremonies. It's just not the same as actually experiencing it. Probably hit on everything on that book, or on that page. The whole book, yeah. It's going to take a while to get through this. I'm going pretty slow right now. The ceremonies of Freemasonry are not the reading of an essay, but the opening of a problem requiring research and constituting philosophy. The arch expounder, her symbols are the instructions she gives. The lectures are endeavors, often partial and one-sided, as we said before, to interpret these symbols. He who would become an accomplished Mason must not be content merely to hear or even to understand the lectures. He must, aided by them, and they having, as it were, marked out the way for him, study, interpret, and develop these symbols for himself. Yeah, if you're a Mason and, you know, you've heard the lectures or you've learned them yourself, you know, it's about integrating everything that's into it. It's not about just being able to robotically repeat it, but also understand it and integrate it. Same with reading a book. You know, after you read a book, you want to take some time to, you know, kind of absorb, you know, what you've read rather than just trying to, you know, get as much information in and then regurgitate a whole bunch, you know, as much as you possibly can. Okay, we're moving on to page 23. I'm going to read my notes on this page. Masonry is only the ruins of this grandeur, these mystery schools. It is just kind of, you know, we will build like a more, you know, we'll get more understandings of the teachings, and these things will adapt into an even, you know, more grandeur version once again. It's just Masonry was really taking all these broken pieces and trying to figure it out, and Masonry is the remnants, you know, of the ruins of this once grandeur thing. Though Masonry is identical with the ancient mysteries, it is so only in this qualified sense, that it presents but an imperfect image of their brilliancy, the ruins only of their grandeur, and a system that has experienced progressive alterations, the fruits of social events, political circumstances, and the ambitious imbecility of its improvers. What else do I have written down? Perverted, much like original teachings of anything. Albert Pike himself says this. Spreads truth among many rather than holding information. I'm not sure what I'm referring to there, so I'm just going to go down in the page. After leaving Egypt, mysteries became modified, introduced in other countries, to help maintain, you know, the laws of the land. Was the obligation of the initiate everywhere, you know, basically to just do good and be a good person. You know, you're not getting yourself into trouble, you're not getting caught up in things that, you know, are not, you know, helping you towards your true higher aspirations or getting in alignment with your higher self. You're avoiding those kinds of things. The priests, it became the heritage of the priests, and basically they kept this information to themselves. They were nowhere willing to make the common people co-proprietors with themselves of philosophical truth. And that's kind of what's happened in the world. It's like, I feel like too many people held on to the information for too long. You know, when you get super advanced on the path, there's certain information which you don't talk about. You know, you just, once you get to a certain point, you don't speak of it. unless someone else has reached that same point on their path, but they're going to learn that, through internal work as well. But there's so much that can be taught without having to go to those levels, of where the deepest initiates have gone. We should have just made people a little more conscious of these principles and stuff and how they actually manifest in our lives. As in, if you go against these things, it's like going against the river or going against the current. It's only going to hurt you in the end, kind of deal. If you don't understand these hermetic principles. Christianity told you to follow authority figures rather than political equality. In Christianity, it did get really corrupt back in the day, and that's why there had to be mystery schools and secret gatherings and stuff, because, basically intellectuals and people who knew what their rights were and they understood the natural laws, they had to get together to help each other out to, bring a better influence on mankind. Masonry is not the Colosseum in ruins, it is rather a Roman palace of the Middle Ages, disfigured by modern architectural improvements, yet built on a cyclopean foundation laid by the Etruscans. Would have to do some information digging on that, and with many a stone of the superstructure taken from dwellings and temples of the age of Hadrian and Antoninus. Christianity did teach the doctrine of fraternity, but repudiated that of political equality, inculcating obedience to a ruler. Typically, at the time, it was Caesar, to those lawful in authority. Masonry was all about equality. That's what the whole idea of on the level comes from, because it proves horizontal. So it's, when you're trying to put like a picture on the wall or something like that. Actually, I'll go ahead and show you. Up there on the wall, my fiance did that tiger butterfly painting. It's super, super cool. Let's see if I can get a little bit closer. Check it out. Yeah. But anyway, where was I going with this? Totally lost my train of thought. Oh, the symbolism of the level. You've got, when you're putting like a picture or piece of art on the wall or something like that, you got to make sure it's level. It's the same with society. People argue that no, not everyone's the same, because, to a degree that's correct. Like, if we take basketball, for instance, look at somebody that's really tall and like very athletic, like Shaquille O'Neal, and then you might have somebody that's, just not as athletically built, or they're not as tall, or when, they just don't have the natural affinity for that thing. Some people are just born to have a little bit more skill in one thing. Some people are really good at music. Some people are really good at sports. So they're going to be naturally gifted. And I think anyone with hard work can be good at something, but some people are just going to be naturally gifted over others. So in that way, no, maybe we're not all equal. But as far as natural rights go, we are all equal under creation, under natural law. Nobody has more rights than somebody else. Like, we're all equals. We're all children of the supreme architect. That's the whole idea. So yeah, really, man and women, a man or a woman, proves themselves by what they do, and they shouldn't at any point, think that they have more rights than anybody. They might have more credentials, or they might have accomplished more things, but they still have the same rights, under natural law. You can't force people to do anything like by coercion. You can't steal from them. You can't hurt them. Basically, you just don't violate anybody's individual rights. The rules are actually of society are not that difficult. It's just things have become so convoluted and such over time. But anyway, I'm going to get back to this. We're still on page 23. Here it says, in the monastery there is no fraternity. There is fraternity and equality, but no liberty. Masonry added that also and claimed from man the threefold heritage. He gets all three: liberty, equality, and fraternity. And liberty, from what I understand, is the ability, it doesn't guarantee freedom, but it's the idea that you have this way of pursuing it. You know, people do say liberty all the time, and they don't really know. Even I can't give you a surefire definition of what it means. But there are slight differences to the word freedom and liberty, but they're all kind of in tangent with each other. But from what I understand, it is the ability to, you know, go beyond and learn more and become more. And like what a lot of these organizations, like religious or otherwise, could do is they could, you know, it might hold you back. I'm not saying that is the case, but yeah, the idea is to embrace experience and to learn why we're here, not get too caught up in doctrine and stuff. So liberty, equality, and fraternity. It was but a development of the original purpose of the mysteries, which was to teach men to know and practice their duties to themselves and their fellows, the great practical end of all philosophy and knowledge. Are there any other notes? This page doesn't really look like it. Man must be supreme over institutions, for they are his creations in the first place. It's kind of funny, we create these things which seem to imprison us a lot of the time. I mean, if you look at even like money, see how we're all ruled and governed by it, but it's something that we created. It doesn't exist in nature, yet we seem to be bound by it. It's very interesting how all this stuff works out. It's like the idea of, you know, getting trapped by an institution, but we made the institution in the first place. It's so funny how that works. Truths are the springs from which duties flow, and it is but a few hundred years since a new truth began to be distinctly seen, that man is supreme over institutions, and not they over him. Man has natural empire over all institutions. They are for him, according to his development, not he for them. This seems to be a very simple statement, one to which all men everywhere ought to assent. A-S-S-E-N-T. But once it was a great new truth, not revealed until governments had been in existence for at least 5,000 years. Interesting. Once it was revealed, it imposed new duties on men. Man owed it to himself to be free. Okay, so we're on page 24. We're a little ways into this video. I'm not sure that I'm going to go too much longer today. Maybe I'll be able to get through this next page. We'll see. Page 24 in my version of the book. More responsibility, but greater freedom. Anarchy ensues after gaining fast freedom. Is that what he's saying? We'll go into that then. Masonry has been responsible for major shifts in history under guise of stone masonry. So yeah, it was, you know, there's this whole concept that we came from like the operative masons, which were building the buildings and such, and that it changed to speculative masonry once more, you know, intellectuals and scholarly type guys were getting involved, and even like royals and such, political leaders were getting involved in the fraternity. It's hard to say exactly how the change happened, when it happened, but Freemasonry and the mysteries, you know, the mysteries are just the more ancient version. It's always been a way of transferring knowledge, you know, whatever kind of knowledge that may be, and this knowledge comes with freedom. It comes with, you know, challenging, you know, the status quo a lot of the time. And Masonry has been influential in history, not so much as like an institution in and of itself, like going out there and changing, because it doesn't talk about its political views. It's about, you know, coming into union with the God that you worship. You know, it requires a belief in a supreme being. But it's been these men who have become a part of this fraternity, and then they go out and are inspired because they've been initiated. They've had this energy activated, and then they go out and change the world. And that's how any true society or mystery school should function. Masonry knows this truth has God on its side, of course. No pope or potentate can overcome. Yeah, they don't, like, Source doesn't need a middleman, you know. It's like we have all, there's a reason we're manifested here. We're part of this plan. Truth, growth, spiritual glory of the race on the path with heroes and deity himself. So yeah, let's go ahead and just read through some of this page then. Talking more about freedom at the beginning. When you have freedom, you have to, it creates a general outlawry of despots and despotisms, which is basically corruption, temporal and spiritual. The sphere of duty becomes immensely enlarged, as we said before. Free thought, free conscience, free speech, these came to be inalienable rights. Unfortunately, as truths always become perverted into falsehoods and are falsehoods when misapplied, this truth became the gospel of anarchy soon after it was preached. Yeah, Albert Pike even claims in here that Masonry aided in bringing about the French Revolution. Just some of the changes through history. Masonry recognized the truth that yes, you know, people will gain their rights, but then, you know, we see in cycles and throughout history that they lose that. They have the perception that they lose those rights, and then these mystery schools, they hold on to these truths. Freemasonry assumed the mask of stone masonry and borrowed its working tools, and so was supplied with new and apt symbols. Masonry felt that this truth had the omnipotence of God on its side. The truth dropped into the world's wide treasury, informing a part of the heritage which each generation receives, enlarges, and holds in trust, and of necessity bequeaths to mankind, the personal estate of man. Here we go. And Masonry early recognized it as true that to set forth and develop a truth or any human excellence of gift or growth is to make greater the spiritual glory of the race. You know, what we do, it transfers on. It travels outwards into the grand infinitude of time. That whosoever aids the march of a truth and makes the thought a thing, writes in the same line with Moses and with him who died upon the cross. It's this lineage that we've been talking about these past couple of videos on here, this transference of these teachings being passed down from Adam to Noah to Solomon, you know, all the way to Jesus. Writes in the same line with Moses and with him who died upon the cross, and has an intellectual sympathy with the deity himself. The best gift we can bestow on man is manhood. It is that which Masonry is ordained of God to bestow on its votaries. Not sure what the definition of that is. V-O-T-A-R-I-E-S. Not sectarianism and religious dogma. Not a rudimental morality that may be found in the writings of Confucius, Zoroaster, Seneca, and the rabbis. That makes me think of like the Sefer HaZohar and writings like that. And the Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, not a little and cheap common school knowledge, but manhood and science and philosophy. So it's kind of weird that, you know, he's kind of speaking up this manhood thing, but he's also playing down some of these philosophers like Confucius, Zoroaster. I'll be out there in a little bit. You can come say hi if you really want to. I'm making a YouTube video, but I'm almost done, so.
Another one?
I do a lot of them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, are you gonna say hi?
Sure. Hello. It's me, Chris. Again. I got a book.
Books are good.
It's a big one.
We're all about books around here. And video games.
It's a video game book. Five Nights at Freddy's.
Five Nights at Freddy's. Very nice. You want to show them?
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
this.
I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video real quick, though.
Okay.
Yep. 36 minutes. Yeah, I'm ready to call it for this one. All right, so that's the end of that page. So we went over the first 3 pages in chapter 2, and the next time we do Morals and Dogma, we'll just pick up from there. Not sure when I'll do my next video or what I'm going to cover, but I'll be back on here as soon as I can. Take care, everybody.
I thought you were talking to Mom or making a video or something like that.
Well, I am making a video.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just saying my farewells, you know.
Okay.
You got to say, like, thanks for subscribing, thanks for being a part of this channel. If you want to receive new notifications, hit the little bell thing.
When I make my own YouTube videos or channel, I'll just be like, you don't have to subscribe. I'm just doing this for fun.
That too. But people want to subscribe because you're doing it for fun, so they can watch you do more of it for fun. Because that's pretty much why I do this, because it's fun, but it also teaches people stuff and it helps them connect dots. You know, a lot of the people on here are studying kind of the same stuff, so we're all learning. We're all learning together.
They should also try studying the lore about this game.
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah.
We've done some Zelda lore on here. I've done like 4 videos of the Ocarina of Time. Video games have a lot of lore.
This one has way
seems
more than every single game in the whole world.
Oh, Elder Scrolls has insane lore.
But the people can't even figure out anything anymore. They're just like, for this game, they're like, this donut is actually the enemy of this game. That's just
all right, everybody. We're going to continue this conversation, but I'm going to turn this video off. So take care. I will see you soon. Goodbye.